Are the Anghkooey logs, where we recap, break down, analyze, and theorize all the episodes of From seasons 1 through 3. Let's get into it, Fromily. Season 1, episode 1 of From, Long Day's Journey into Night. This episode shares the same name as a play made by American playwright Eugene O'Neill, and that play is widely regarded as his magnum opus. And one of the quotes he said in his lifetime was, "The past is the present, isn't it? But it's also the future too. We all try to lie about it, but life won't let us." I would say that that is a very definitive title for a show where the past, present, and future are all happening at the same time. In this episode, we meet Sheriff Boyd Stevens, who is ringing his bell to tell everyone to go home for the night. And for the only time that we see in the entire series, we see Sarah, Lauren, and Christy touching the talismans outside of their doors. But I don't recall that ever happening in any other episode. So it was probably to stress the importance of the talismans in episode 1. We then quickly realize that something strange is going on because we see Sarah sending everyone home from the diner, and right after, the jukebox starts playing a song by the Animals called "We Gotta Get Out of This Place." That song and the lyrics in it foreshadow the moments that are about to happen when Lauren and Megan lose their lives. We see that Boyd has protected this town for almost 100 nights without any issues. We see Lauren and Megan waiting nervously outside of their house for Frank, Lauren's husband, to come home, but he is too busy, passed out drunk in Tom's bar. Megan is saying her prayers, which is very important for our book 74 theories about the Bible and everything. But then somehow, some way, the old lady monster is at her window on the 2nd floor, which till this day I'm like, how did she get up there? And she convinces Megan to open the window and takes her life by pretending to be her grandmother. The next day, Frank decides to walk home. He sees everyone in town outside of his house. He wonders what's going on. Boyd comes out and slaps him a couple times and says, "A man protects his family. Why did you not nail the windows shut?" He then shows Frank his family's bodies, and this is the first time that we learn that the monsters take out organs from the people whose lives they take. And that is something that I will get into in a different theory video because it has to do with the alchemy elements of blood, phlegm, water, bile, black bile. Very long-standing theory since season 1. Basically, the bile is what makes the monsters evil. We learned this in season 2 when Boyd takes out Smiley. The only thing inside Smiley's dry body is yellow bile. They are sucked of all blood, of all water, of all phlegm, so they crave the blood that they had when they were once human, so they take out the organs of their victims. Again, we'll get into that in a different video. Frank's name means free man, or from France in other languages, and so this has duality with the meanings. It could be connected to Jade. It could mean that Frank is now going to soon be free of this place because he's going into the box. Interestingly enough, Lauren's name means wisdom, which is also what the name of the new character Sophia that's coming to town in season 4 with the first Bible also represents. When Boyd is going back downstairs to tell Father Cautry to go up and check on Frank, you can see that the grandma monster threw the talisman from the doorway onto the floor, and I realized that if she had not done that, Boyd would not have had a reason to put the talisman into his pocket that would later help him be able to buy time to save Ethan's life at the RV. We are then introduced to the Matthews family, Julie, Tabitha, Ethan, and Jim, who are on their final family trip right before Tabitha and Jim's alleged divorce. Tabitha and Jim are reminiscing about the good times when they first met. Julie is tormenting her brother, telling him horrible stories about his finger puppet Norman and how he doesn't survive. Ironically, I have a theory video about how Norman was actually a character that was in the town at one point and came from somewhere near Lake Michigan. Norman also stands for North's man. That could be something to do with the talismans since they resemble a compass. But Julie tells Ethan that there are monsters that took Norman's life, and Tabitha tells Ethan that monsters are not real. Julie and Tabitha have very different perspectives on life as mother and daughter, and I think that that also ties to the fact that later on, after they see the tree for the first time, Julie tells Ethan that those crows are called a murder, and then Tabitha says that they were actually ravens, and those are called an unkindness. And when you think of Schrodinger's cat that Jade and Tom talked about, and the possible quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement in this show, the story walking, and how everything is the present, the past, and the future all at once, and how multiple cycles are happening all at the same time, and you think of the particle theory, when you observe particles, they act differently than when they are not observed. I think that all ties back to the perspective that Tabitha and Julie have when they come to this place and how that can change things for better or for worse. But that is a whole nother video that I'm taking a long time to work on because it is very in-depth. In the RV, before they see the tree, Jim tells Tabitha that he misses how things used to be, alluding to the fact that he misses their life before they lost their son Thomas. And this moment is shown to us in Jim's final moments at the end of season 3, right before he loses his life to the man in yellow. With that said, a lot of the color themes in episode 1 are all yellow. There are yellow or golden solo cups in the RV. There are yellow blankets and sheets and wallpaper all over the town with specific flowers that can be found in the town that we later see Ellis dropping off at Lauren and Megan's graves. We also see these flowers in season 3 when Tyne Chen passes away. Clara brings those flowers to the diner, and they are also the same flowers that are on the table in the cave with Jasper when Victor and Henry go down there in season 3 and find Miranda's scarf. And all that has to do with the Clara theory videos that I've posted over the last couple of years about how she is up to something suspicious. When Jim and Tabitha see the tree, Jim's like, oh, it must have been a storm that knocked this tree over. And Tabitha's like, well, that's a very selective storm. This is a direct foreshadowing to the selective storm that the man in yellow sent to Colony House at the end of season 1 when Jim got too close to answers and Tabitha dug the hole under the Matthews house. We also see Kenny playing chess with his dad, Bing Kwan, who has dementia. We see that Gina, the night nurse, is taking care of Kenny's father, and that Kenny has some attraction to Christy, the town's doctor/paramedic, which obviously does not last long after the bus rolls into town at the beginning of season 2. Boyd makes his way up to Colony House, breaking the rule and agreement that him and Donna had as leaders not to step into each other's territory, and Donna is upset at first, but she lets him go see his son Ellis because he's still upset at Boyd for taking away his mother Abby, who was going to take her own son's life because she thought this was a dream place that everyone had to wake up from. So Ellis still resents his father for that. Ellis is painting Fatima in this part of the episode. They're a cute little artsy couple, but Ellis says something very interesting about the fact that Fatima is like a poem, and poems come into play a lot in the series. There is something that Boyd tells Ellis in this moment that till this day I cannot figure out. He tells Ellis that Megan and Lauren passed away and that Lauren was and just stops there because Ellis is like, yeah, I know. And I'm like thinking like, what significance did Lauren have to Ellis and Boyd? It has never been shown to us. I want to know why Lauren was important to Ellis. They don't explain that, or at least they have not explained it yet. And I'm still curious as to what was foreshadowed there, because then later on we see Ellis bringing those flowers to their graves. I really hope we get some flashbacks to the few days or months before season 1 started in season 4 to maybe figure out what exactly Boyd was talking about with Ellis and Lauren. Something else to note is that when Ethan is talking to his father about the crows, Jim says that the crows do funny things. And then in the season 4 trailer, we see the crows at a funeral, likely Jim's funeral, because maybe the crows didn't like that he was talking about them earlier in the show. Or it could be that Randall is up to something and knows that a plan is about to be executed and the crows are in on it from what we see in this new trailer. But we see the Matthews family circling over and over and over again. They arrive the first time at the end of the funeral. Boyd and everyone just let them be. The second time around, Sarah ignores them and tells her brother Nathan. She says that's the cruelest part, thinking that you're going to find the road that goes home, but you never do. For some reason, Jim and Tabitha see Jade's car swerving down the road, and Tabitha's like, we should ask them for help. Girl, they're about to crash into you. What are you talking about? This sends the RV flying off the road, and Jade and Toby crash into a tree. Boyd and Kenny get Toby to the clinic. Jade arrives to town, tripping on something, telling everyone they're beautiful, and Boyd goes to the Matthews RV to check on everybody. Jim and Tabitha are not trusting of Boyd. Ethan has a spike through his leg, and then Tabitha finally gets saved from the RV, and instead of remembering Ethan's name, she recalls Thomas's name, the son that they lost before they came to this town. Thomas was a baby that fell off the changing table because they got a phone call at home and they were distracted. I think that that's because the man in yellow knew that he had to stop Jim from coming to town with Tabitha when it was her destined moment to arrive, because he knew that Tabitha would get further than Miranda did because Jim would be helpful in them finding answers, and he was by the end of the 3rd season, which is why the man in yellow took his life and said that Tabitha should have never dug that hole. Christy is getting her supplies ready, and then we see that Bing Kwan, Kenny's dad, says that he doesn't like Toby because he's making a mess. Then we find out that Sarah is hearing voices. She's nice to Toby at first, but then the voices make her take Toby's life, and on the wall behind them in the clinic, there is a chalkboard that has a stanza from the Edgar Allan Poe poem, The Raven, about his long-lost love, Lenore. Jade and Toby are also wearing best friend matching bracelets notes because they've been best friends since the 4th grade, as Jade tells us in episode 2. But like I said in my Dr. Seuss theory video about the show and how it's all connected, and that part about the Raven, I think that Jade was meant to figure out things very quickly, and that had Toby lived, he would have slowed Jade down, because Jade would not have been motivated to go look for answers because he would have had the comfort of Toby around. And something very interesting that Kenny says in episode 2 to Father Kotri after they get back to Colony House, he's like, oh, you know, I can't deal with any more bodies. I'm hanging on by a thread. I'm like not doing well. And at the same time, he doesn't even know that his dad is being taken out by the monsters. So it seems that Kenny revealed his weakness in that moment in episode 2, and the monsters knew that, and that's why he's been tormented all 3 seasons. Jim is very skeptical of Boyd. Boyd is trying to explain as best as he can without freaking them out as to what's going on. He just says that Tabitha and Julie need to get into town as quick as they can before nightfall. So they go with Kenny and Ellis, who take Jade with them in a truck, and they rush to Colony House before dark. Then we see that Boyd has a talisman from Frank's house. He uses it to buy them time to save Ethan's life. Jim is skeptical as to what's going on. Christy is very nervous. She's not sure if the talisman will work in the RV because they've never tried that before. Something interesting I noticed too is that right before the monsters start to arrive, Ethan begins to seizure, which is something he never does the rest of the series. The only person that does that is Julie when she story walks. And as the episode ends, we see the monsters approaching the RV. And that is season 1, episode 1. Take a little break from season 1, episode 2, The Way Things Are Now. This episode starts off with Kenny covered in blood chopping down a tree in frustration, which doesn't happen till later on in the episode. And I think this is one of the rare instances where that happens, where the future is shown earlier in the episode than the moments that happen in the present. So Ethan stops seizuring. Jim, Christy, and Boyd are very worried because Ethan has never had seizures before. And even though he's in and out of it for a little bit before he finally says what his dream was, I'm really wondering if he was story walking, and we're going to see that in a later season, especially with what he says his dream was. We hear the monsters outside the RV trying to make Jim think that they want to help him, and Boyd is trying not to reveal too much about what's going on. Jim is weirded out by the talisman, and he is very confused. And Boyd tells him that they are not quite human. They don't know what the monsters are yet. We then catch up with Kenny, Jade, Ellis, Tabitha, and Julie, who have to get out of the truck and run up to Colony House. And when the group arrives to the entrance of Colony House, a big moment happens that we wonder about till this day. One of the boy monsters recognizes Julie. Yeah, the grandma monster knew Megan's name because Megan had been in town for a few months, it seemed. But Julie just came to town, and it's always been my theory that Julie's story walked back in time to the previous cycle where this kid and the cheerleader monster came from. They likely did what Sarah did. They probably heard the voices, and they sacrificed one of the children and reset the cycle and became monsters. And Julie probably met him back in time when she story walked. But only time will tell if that happens in season 4. We see Donna and everyone in Colony House very worried and concerned. One of the residents says, "Those aren't our people," and Donna says to let them in. They have a protocol where they tie up new arrivals, and Julie and Tabitha are freaking out about it. Ellis takes Jade, who is still passed out, up to one of the rooms and ties him to the bed, which is also protocol. Trudy comes in saying that Jade looks really cute, and Ellis is just kind of like, whatever, man, and walks out. Then we see that Julie is taken into the kitchen, and Tabitha is taken into Donna's room where she is tied up, and Donna explains to her what exactly is going on. She explains the rules of the town to Tabitha, her first night in town with her sister, and how the monsters tortured her sister, and how monsters exist. Shortly after, Tabitha had just told Ethan that monsters were not real. And we finally meet Victor, who ends up creeping out Julie because he's trying to get his peaches. Fatima is Julie's proxy, so she comes to comfort Julie and takes her upstairs to her and Ellis's bedroom. She knows that Julie is scared, and she shows her the view out the window of the whole town and the space that they're in. And Julie asks, "Why did you bring me up here?" And Fatima tells her, because even in a place like this, when you look at it from up above, a nightmare can seem like a dream. Right before Kenny's father has his life taken away, he tells Gina that the place that they are in is a nightmare. And it also seems that he can hear voices. Him and Gina are playing chess while Sarah is doing to Toby on the other side of the clinic what she's doing to him because of the voices. And it's almost like Bing Kwan can hear the voices that are speaking to Sarah, and he's reacting to them. He tells Gina that when you lose all your memories, that is a nightmare. And that is a direct reflection of Victor. He loses his memories and it becomes his nightmare, but also his reality. And it is really hard for him to get those memories back, as we find out throughout the season. And his dad tells Gina that chess is a universal language. And I think that that's also foreshadowing to some of the elements of this place that they are in. again, not only is it a game, but there is a language that everyone can speak universally somehow, some way, possibly once they find out more. And again, as I said for episode 1, in this episode, Kenny and Ellis are going at it. There's a lot of tension between them because Kenny is Boyd's deputy. Ellis and Boyd are kind of going through a rough patch, and Father Khatri has to mediate. But Kenny does say that he is hanging on by a thread. He reveals that weakness, and it seems again that the town is just torturing him for saying that the rest of the show. So Ethan has the spike removed from his leg, and even though he had already seizured a while before that and said things in between after the seizure, he then tells his father Jim, Christy, and Boyd about the spider that came down from the ceiling because everyone was yelling. He says that he saw him, his dad, his sister, and his mom in the drawings. In that moment, we see all of Victor's drawings in the room. There is a big connection there because yes, Victor does have a drawing of the town in a snow globe with a spider floating at the top of it, which people theorize could be a form of the man in yellow. And again, that goes back to all the books that make up the show, all the pages that are telling the stories from different books, real and imaginary, the poems, real and imaginary, that are thrown into the show, book 74 of the Bible, which is episode 6 of season 1, the story walking, the cobwebs that Boyd finds Abby in later in the season. There are a lot of connections with spiders because the From timeline is a spider web quantum realm where the story is in different layers of different pages all floating around, and Julie can story walk in different intersections through them. I'll come up with a visual somehow, some way, and show you guys another time and break that down for you. But we learned that Sarah is not only the one that takes Toby's life, she also is told by these voices that she needs to remove Toby's tongue so that it looks like the monsters did it. And this is where Sarah starts to become a monster herself, because why is it that Sarah was able to walk home safely at night without any monsters attacking her? Her brother Nathan knocks on the bathroom door and says, "Hey, I didn't hear you come in. I'm going to make dinner." And Sarah tells him, "I did something really bad." Now, you remember at the beginning of this video when I explained the long journey's day into night and how Eugene O'Neill's magnum opus and the quote about the past being the present and also the future and all that? Well, have you ever noticed that in the show, Ellis draws and paints the present moment. Victor draws the moments that have already happened that he has seen in the past. And his mother Miranda, in the paintings that she made that Tabitha found in Henry's basement in season 3, were paintings of the future, not the past. She was able to somehow see into Tabitha's lifetime. And that goes back to the painting of the man in yellow not being the man in yellow we see at the end of season 3, but rather the man in yellow that Boyd is going to turn into throughout season 4. Kenny finally goes to check on his dad and finds that he is no longer alive. He is heartbroken. And I found it very interesting that there is a thread of metallic wire, a singular wire hanging over his father's body when he finds him. And Kenny had just verbally said at Colony House the night before that he was hanging on by a thread and that he could not handle more bodies. The town is not waiting around. The evil is not waiting around for Kenny. They're starting to torment him right off the bat. And then we see the scene that we saw at the beginning of episode 2. Kenny is covered in blood, chopping down a tree. He says that the blood soaked into the chess pieces because him and his father did not have time to varnish the pieces, and that just like his father would corner him down to the last 3 spots of each game, he tells Boyd that they are also running out of spaces on the board. And then we see at the end of the episode Boyd erasing the sign that says 96 nights without incident. And finally, we see Ethan, who is making a recovery in Colony House. This is his first few moments at Colony House. He is officially in the town, not the RV. And would you know it, he's wearing yellow pajamas with cowboys and horses on them. We know that there's a cowboy monster, and the cowboy monster is there in season 3, episode 1 in the barn, and the cowboy monster is standing next to Boyd, who's wearing a yellow shirt. However, I'm going to point back to the "Oh, the Places You'll Go" theory, which was the end of the season 1 finale's title from the Dr. Seuss book. I already covered all the similarities that the show shares with that book and how a boy in yellow comes to the town in the book, and Ethan at the end of episode 2 is a boy wearing yellow pajamas who is in the town now. So was Ethan story walking when he was having the seizure? Because we know that that's how Julie story walks. Her body stays physically present, but her mind goes back in time. Ethan says he saw the Lake of Tears, that everyone screamed when the spider came down. This definitely might be a scene that we see in a future season and learn that Ethan knows what story walking is because he had a story walking experience too. However, that might end up being a moment at the end of season 4 or the beginning of season 5. In this episode, when Sarah is confessing to her brother Nathan about what she did by leaving the clinic door open, she tells her brother about the girl in a glass shop who walks in and finds everything is broken. And even though she knew that they used to mean something, or they told old stories, she tries to put them back together to make them make sense and find the answers, but every time she tries, she ends up cutting her hand on the glass. And although I'm not talking about episode 3 of season 1 in this video, after Kenny's mom finds out that her husband has passed away, she's at the diner trying to get breakfast ready, and she drops a glass onto the floor and ends up cutting her hand. So it's almost like the story that Sarah was telling was relating to Tyne Chen. And one final thing again about episode 3 that I'm going to circle back to episode 1 with Julie and Tabitha. When Tyne Chen drops that glass and cuts her hand, the sign behind Kenny in the diner says, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul," implying that hope is a bird. And that goes back to Julie and Tabitha's statements about the murder of crows versus the unkindness of ravens. Julie is looking at everything with a pessimistic and fearful perspective, while Tabitha remains optimistic and hopeful. And those are the two feelings that everyone feels in this town when they get closer to the answers. So it's almost like that duality shows us that yes, they might be crows and evil, or they might be ravens and maybe trying to warn people and help them. Just like people don't know if the boy in white is fully good or evil yet. But just like Ellis told Fatima that she was just like a poem, that verse behind Kenny comes from a poem by Emily Dickinson titled "Hope is the Thing with Feathers," and it is about a resilient singing bird that resides in the human soul. That is all for now from Ali. Thank you so much for watching the Anghkooey logs. We're going to get more into it as time goes on over the next couple of weeks while we get ready for season 4. I am super excited for this new season, and I know you are too. So let me know what you think, your theories, what you noticed in episodes 1 and 2 of season 1 down in the comments below. And look forward to episodes 3 and 4 of season 1 in the next Anghkooey logs video.